What's going on, YouTube? We're back at it for another video, and today we'll be doing the Stormveil Castle Guide. Now, the initial location that we're going to be starting from is going to be the Stormveil main gate. Now, we've got more than a few things to cover with this one, so let's get straight into it. Now, from that starting Lost Grace, we'll need to head over to the right of it. There's going to be some steps going down. Grab it up another one of those finger things, and at the top of those steps over to our left, we'll need to jump down onto that wooden walkway, grab up another consumable. Then we'll be circling back around, back to that Lost Grace, and entering the castle itself. Now, I didn't have the footage for it inside of here, but there is an item over on the right behind that table. I believe it's just another consumable. But just after that, we'll be heading out here, jump onto that ledge into that broken wall. And then we're going to be dealing with one of the most irritating enemy types, which is going to be the bladefoot birds. I can't remember the name of them, but they're extremely frustrating. And as you'll notice, this gameplay is very early on for me, and Wretch Life is not one that you really enjoy very early on, especially with that low health, but these guys can be a real pain, especially when you're not leveled up before coming in here. But just after defeating them, we'll head over to the right. We've got some bolts to grab up over here on the other end. Sadly enough, you can't jump up on top of this broken down wall, but we'll be doubling back and heading over to the left. Now, you will want to head over to the left. Over on our right is going to be one of the, or the next Lost Grace that we can grab, but before we grab that one, there's about 3 birds over here that we need to take out, and one item that we'll be grabbing up over here. I believe it's another one of the smithing stones. Now, I died to these guys. Well, I don't want to talk about how many times I died to them, but it's more than a few. You might want to just aggro, wait for them to do that one attack where they slash down and get stuck into the ground, and then just make quick work of them. Now, there will be one more. You want to go stealth for this one just to make it as easy as possible for yourself. Get that first swing on them, be able to finish them off quickly. There's going to be that smithing stone, and then we'll head down and grab that next Lost Grace. From there, we'll need to head up the wooden path on our right. It's going to be about 3 enemies up here. One of them will be able to throw some of those flame grenades, but halfway up on our left is going to be another one of those shields that we'll be able to grab up. Now, one solid strat is to run all the way back down, kind of kite them back down. That way you don't have one of those moments where they could possibly push you over the edge, but at the same time, you could push them over the edge. Could make it a bit easier, but at the same time, you don't want to get caught up with 3 of them swinging at you in that one moment, because it just could be a death trap, and as you can see from the amount of health I have in this gameplay footage, not going to be an easy one. But over here on the right, there's going to be some stairs, but before that, we'll need to sneak over to this left side. We'll have a little bit of a bigger boy enemy type in here that we can sneak up on, make pretty quick work of. And over on our right is going to be another one of those claw weapons. Probably could be good for some of those people out there that are using a staff or seal in their left hand. Have that on the right for a melee kind of caster type of build. Now, just up the stairs, we're going to have a couple of those enemy types that are going to be throwing some of those flame grenades, and there's a large amount of those explosive barrels up here, so do take it cautiously when you do aggro them. But just over to the right, we'll have a hole in the wall, and up this ladder there is going to be one enemy that drops down. Definitely don't want to get kicked off by that guy, but as long as you're just underneath the ladder, you should be able to make quick work of him. We'll head up that ladder and over to our right. We're going to be able to jump down behind the enemy that throws grenades over here just in front of us. A couple more of those explosive barrels, but from this point, we'll be able to head back down to that one location where the enemies were watching over that golden rune. Grab that up, and then we'll be doubling back. We'll have to break through all this clutter over here. There's going to be one enemy right over here, and then we'll need to jump down to the wooden platform below us, grab up that next item, and over to our right, or right of the door over here, we'll have some more of those throwing knives. Now, we can't open that door just yet, but we'll be going for the key here in a moment. But this is going to be one of those moments where the full-on hate of the knights inside of this game started. In this next room, we've got a knight that, I really don't want to admit how many times that I died to this guy, but when I looked back at the footage, it was probably over an hour that I was stuck trying to fight this guy, constantly just frustrated, running into this room, just getting obliterated. I mean, you can see how much health I've got, but over on the right side of this room is the key. If you want to avoid this guy altogether, just grab that key and then go. You can, but there is a chest behind him that possibly you could open up and grab the item, but at the same time, you might as well get rid of this guy, especially with how many times I died to him. Became a personal vendetta for myself. I had to get rid of him. It just wasn't going down, wasn't progressing until I at least killed him one time, but he will keep respawning inside of there. Now, over to the right, inside of this chest, I believe we've got another one of those talismans that further enhances our guarded ability, or guarded attacks, I believe. Probably pretty good for some of those people that are using shields out there. could enhance your shield defensives. Not 100% on it. Haven't looked into that one, but could be something that helps you out in that area. But we'll now have that key to open up the door, be able to head up the ladder, and progress further into the Stormveil Castle. Now, first things first, we'll need to head over to our right. That will be a spot that we need to jump down or jump across. Do be aware of that. I did fall down it a couple of times, but at the very end, we'll have a consumable. Now, just on our left, there is an item that is going to be over in that hole over there. But we won't be able to get that until we progress a little bit further. We won't be able to jump over to it, but just to the left of that, and like I said before, do remember that there is a hole in the floor. I've dropped down from it many times before. But jump across that, and over to the left of that purple item, there's going to be a jump that we'll need to make onto the outside here just to get these, or this last item. There'll be 2 enemies over here, I believe. Yep, just going to be these 2. One's an archer. I believe the other one is an archer, but it'll pull out his sword and shield. But we'll also have a hammer to pick up from this. The hammer that I did equip is not the one that we just picked up. Just to clarify that, that's actually from a different boss over in the Limegrave area. I just decided to switch up my weapon by this point just to see if it had a bit more damage. Now, just up here to our left is going to be an enemy that pops out for us, just making it aware for you. You know, it doesn't deal the most damage, but can catch you off guard, and you're already low on some of those health pots. Can be a frustrating moment. Also have another one of those pickled chicken's feet, giving us more runes anytime that we consume it, or from any kill that we make. But just before that ladder, or stairs, getting lost in the different terminology here. But there'll be an item to grab up over there on the right, which is just going to be a mushroom. There's a lot of consumables out here, or crafting material, that is just kind of all over the place. That's very easy to find later on. But just before we enter that room on our left, on our right, we'll need to drop down. We'll grab up another one of those or crafting material, and then double back to the location where we were going. There's going to be another knight inside of this room. Another one of those moments where I got stuck for quite a bit of time. He's going to have that 360 radius attack, almost like the Millennia attack, but not as devastating. If you have a good bit of health and you haven't started as a wretch, you may fare a bit better than I did. But, the knights, Stormveil Castle, it's where all my rage against the knights and hatred has come from. But lucky enough, with this one, if you do kind of line him up towards the corner, you can end up pushing him in or causing him to fall down that hole. Makes it a whole lot easier for you. But from that point, once we get up to the middle platform, just behind, there's going to be another consumable, and then we'll double back to the left, and there's going to be our next Lost Grace. Now that we don't have to go through all of that frustrating mess yet again. But just beyond that, out to our left, we're going to have more of these birds, but this time they're going to be able to throw some explosive barrels. Very frustrating in this one spot. Another one of those moments. I do not want to clarify how many times I died in this area, but trust me, this is not the hardest portion. But you'll start to learn their mechanics in a way. There'll be 2 of them ahead of us that'll be able to sneak out, and well, there's another one of those deaths from it. Trust me, that's not the only one, and there was more than a few beyond that. These birds. Goodness. More frustrating than I could possibly imagine. Now, you'll notice I'm getting pretty close to death every time I run up inside of here, so you really do want to kind of wait for that last moment when they throw that barrel just to dodge it. But over here on the left where that second bird came from, we'll need to jump over the ledge and down to that next ledge down. And then I believe we'll head over to the left of this, and we'll be able to jump down on a side railing. Doesn't look like you would be able to move across this, but we'll get another one of those shields from over here. Not sure whether or not it's one of the better ones, but it could be a solid one at the very beginning if you're one of those shield bearers. But over to our left, we'll need to drop down, and then everything will crumble out beneath you. Now, you can jump back over this, but there'll be a scarab down here with an Ash of War. You can jump down again from that location. It won't kill you for whatever reason. This is probably like the like the haystack from Assassin's Creed. I suppose that bush is really giving you everything that you need to make no fall damage happen. But lucky enough, I forgot to say that there's also a mix of footage between me at late game coming back and getting those secrets and finding some of those, and the early on footage that I didn't get around to these areas, so there will be a Crucible night there. If I had faced that when I first came here, goodness, this would have been another 2 hours probably right here. I hate the Crucible night. But from this location, we'll be able to get the lift that goes all the way up to the location where we just got that one Lost Grace. Sadly enough, nothing underneath there to drop down to. But from that point, we'll start doubling back to the Lost Grace, and then we'll start heading forward. Now, just back here, there's going to be a bunch of explosive barrels, but there's a bird back there that's going to throw one. Do not jump straight into it. Get close enough to aggro it, and then roll back. You don't want to get stuck with that frustrating moment of just getting hit by it and just instant death. I don't know exactly how much damage it actually deals or how much health you need in order to survive that, but we will have one smithing stone back there. Can't tell you how many times I died to those explosive barrels. Oh, God. But over here on the left, we'll have another gold rune. You'll notice an area that we'll need to find just a bit later on, but we won't be able to get to that just yet. But from this point, we'll need to head over to the right. We'll have some more of those throwable blades. Then we'll be able to drop down into this church. There's going to be a teacher inside of here. Can't remember if this guy had a side quest to him, but if you're somebody that's a caster, this may benefit you in the early game, getting a bit more of those abilities going forward. As I chomp down on my chicken Sammy. But over to our left, we got a couple of those wooden mixtape guys. I think we'll see that here in a second. Don't really need to bother with them. No real reason to. But there's going to be a knight in front of us. Now, this is another one of those moments, goodness, that I died unreal amount of times. And the frustration of just going through those birds and then getting to this point is just absurd. You can just run by this guy. Trust me, it's a whole lot easier. I did come back and get my revenge probably 3 times, but at a certain point, as we go through this gameplay footage, you'll notice I get past him and then I die to some, well, it's just absolute BS in my opinion, and we'll get there, but at some point you're going to finally realize after you've gotten your revenge, just run straight by him. Just keep going and get the loot behind or in the next area, because the next Lost Grace isn't too far away. Essentially, we're going to be utilizing the same Lost Grace that we've used to get to this point, but we'll be able to activate a lift that gets us into this next area immediately from that Lost Grace, so we don't have to deal with all of this. But in that next room, we've got another gold rune, and then we'll have one enemy over to our left. He's kind of going to be sitting on the ground so we can get the jump on him, take care of him pretty quickly. And now there's going to be Mr. Krabby Boy down there. Now, trust me, I've got the ultimate strat on how to take care of that guy with no problems at all. Very easy. Now, in this next room, there's another knight, but we can jump over to the ledge on our right. There's a couple items we can grab up over here. We'll be able to sneak up on that enemy over there, grab another one of those pickled chicken's feet, and then start moving across this wooden board over here. Now, I'm not sure whether or not you can aggro them through these windows, but I just snuck right across, head up to this ladder. Don't believe we're going to have anything over here, but we'll be able to drop down over on the right side. There's going to be one enemy below us, so do be aware of that. That way you don't just get snuck attacked or sneak attacked. Now, you know, I'm looking at my health bar right now. I never even noticed. Do I not have any health pots? Pretty low right now. Very frustrating, but we're making do with what we got. Wretch life. But out here, we'll also be able to open up that door. But out here, this is where the moment happens. You open up a chest and you're getting some turtleneck. Somehow, somebody threw an explosive at me, and you can see why at this point I was kind of like, yeah, we're just going to keep running by that knight. Not worried about him. But once we come back, we get our revenge. Over to the right side, we'll have another one of those stone sword keys. And then from this point, we'll be able to head over. Do not jump down. It's a bad idea on my part. But I was able to aggro a couple of enemies that were down there. Kited them up here. Wouldn't highly suggest this, considering a Krabby Boy down there can make quick work of you, especially if you're in the wretch life. But from this point, we'll need to aggro the crab, essentially. Now, I'm going to take a very different approach to this, but just to make sure that everybody's able to follow along with the guide as easily as possible, I'm going to show you what I did instead. I noticed there was a doorway on my right. I just started rolling past it, tried to avoid the crab guy. And inside of this room, over to our left, or out inside here, it almost seems like they've got a giant barricade just protecting them from that crab guy. So you won't want to head out there just yet. We've got to make sure that we get the lift first, but on our left is going to be another enemy over here. We'll take him down. And then we'll be able to grab up one other item inside of here, which is just going to be some arrows. May be beneficial for you if you have a bow and arrow. Or bow. You already got the arrows right there. But from this point, I double back. And pretty much what you want to do is from that wooden platform that we were on. Well, we're about to run over to it. Essentially, you want to aggro this guy and then get up on top of this wooden platform right here. He cannot crawl up here. So it'd be a great idea to get that bow out or that crossbow. With a crossbow, I just made quick work of this guy. Was able to move up to the top right here as soon as he got underneath. As we all know in Elden Ring, most bosses or mini bosses can essentially hit through walls. It's very frustrating, even with explosive arrows. But from this point, you'll be able to just make quick work of him, keep hitting him. Now, somehow I procced a bleed on him. Don't know exactly how this worked out for me, but I'm not sure what bolts I was using, but that's what ended up happening. I wasn't even that knowledgeable on how to use the bolts inside of the game, so I had more bolts, but I couldn't use them at that moment. But over to the right, we'll have another one of those, or Highland axe, I believe the name of it was. Could be something solid for some of those axe wielders out there. But over to our right, we'll have another somber smithing stone, and then we'll have a stone sword key room in here. There's going to be 2 enemies, I believe. Need to be careful with those. Now, essentially, at the other end of that room, we'll also get another whetstone from inside of here, and another shield, and I can't remember the name of this thing. I can't see it from the Adobe player right here. But it could be a solid blade for some of those one-handers, possibly using a shield with you. Could be that upgrade that you're looking for when it comes to facing off with Godrick here coming up soon if you haven't explored or looted some of the other areas in Limegrave. But over here is going to be that lift that connects us with the Lost Grace that we had essentially been using this entire time. Now from this point would be a good idea to hit that Lost Grave, as the Crabman will not be able to revive as soon as we kill him. He's never going to respawn again, so we'll kind of have some free reign in this area. Now, inside of here, we'll have an item that I believe is a part of quest line. Can't remember specifically what part or what area this quest line is for, but if you do come back later and you come back to this location, there will be a hood you can grab up that gives you +1 to vigor. I'm not sure when it happens or how it essentially happens, but instead of it's kind of like there's another loot spawn if you come back later on, and you'll grab that up. Now from this point, we'll need to head back up, be able to take down this knight, and over to our right is going to be a fairly unique item. Essentially, I can't remember what the name of it is, but we can pretty much camouflage ourselves as pretty much anything. It's quite comical. I've seen a lot of people utilize this and still be able to kind of use some of their spells and sit behind bosses or some other type of enemy, or just sneak right past some of those enemies as well. Could be useful for some of that later gameplay. Or probably just something that's going to be funny to use a bit later on. Now from this point, we'll need to head back to that elevator. Head back to the Lost Graves. Get a little bit of that health pack, or health pots back. And then we'll need to head to the staircase heading up to the top of this lift area. Now there's going to be one enemy across. You'll need to be careful, as we'll need to jump across the lift mechanics itself. And then there'll be another bow and arrow guy back here. Now there's going to be more than a few enemies just back here. You want to sneak into here and take out this top guy up here on this platform first, as there's, I can't remember how many different enemies out here that are just kind of resting and sleeping, but we'll need to take him out. Then there's going to be one on our right. We'll take that guy down. And then I believe maybe 2 to 3 more over here. Yeah, it's going to be 3 over here. But if you aggro all of them at once, especially if you're on that wretch life, not going to be a pleasant experience. Now, don't jump over that ledge. Instead, we'll need to head back to where that first guy was sleeping. Jump up on those sandbags. And I would highly suggest taking out those enemies before jumping up on here, as they will aggro and come after you on that ledge. Could easily push you off. But from that point, we'll jump over the next little tower's ledge, jump on down inside of it, and we'll grab up a stone sword key. Now, that bird right there is going to be extremely frustrating, but across the same rooftop, we'll have another one of those gestures to pick up. And then going across to the left side, we'll need to jump down on that broken pillar, get up on this ledge, And we'll have about 4 enemies up top here, I believe that is. And then only one location to head up from here, which is going to be up this ladder. And there's going to be a talisman up here that I can't remember what it enhances. It's the claw talisman. I think this enhances jump attacks. That's right. So anytime, or if you're utilizing those jump attacks a lot, this could be something that benefits you. I'm not sure. I didn't put it on personally, so I don't know whether or not it basically makes you jump higher or just gives you more damage when it comes to those jump attacks, because I know the jump attacks themselves will deal more damage essentially, but it could give you even more damage or just even more height when it comes to your swing or jump. Now from that point, we'll need to jump on back down to that pillar over there, or, well, you could just jump down from there. But from this point, we'll start to kind of head towards that main gate again, which is essentially what this route's going to lead us over to. We'll have a couple of items along the way as well that are going to help us out. Now over here on our left, I believe StoneSword key. No, it's going to be another one of those nomadic cookbooks. Then over to our left, sadly enough, one of those missed opportunities for a loot spawn, but we'll be able to jump on down here, head over to our right. I believe we won't have an enemy until we cross this bridge over here. Well, actually, yeah, we've got one right there. But over here, there's going to be 2 different knights over here. One that's going to be a spearman, and the other one's going to be having that sword and shield. I don't know how long it would have taken me if I did this when I was lower level, but this would have made it a whole lot harder in experience, and this could have been something like a almost 12-hour mission long. But over here on our right, we're going to have another one of those gold runes, and just in front of us, we'll need to jump down to the ledge below, hit the bowman down there, and kill the other 2. That way we don't have anything just shooting at us from the behind, as we'll need to, this is going to be essentially one of those full-on areas that is very frustrating. But from here, we'll be able to head on down, and over to our right, you'll see the main gate. We'll be able to open that main gate and grab the Lost Graves location over here, as well as another gold rune. And just out that door on our left side, I believe we're going to have another gold rune. No, it's actually going to be the wooden mixtape armor. Now, as soon as we come back out, if you didn't kill all 3 of those crossbow, hydralis, basilisks, I'm forgetting the name of it right now, but if you didn't kill those, they're going to be hitting you pretty heavily. And if you got low health by that point, it's going to be a nightmare of an experience. But over here on the right, we'll have a lion to deal with that will give us a somber smithing stone. A couple of enemies to deal with over here. But over here on our right, we're going to need to grab this Lost Grace just beyond these doors. Now, you would think those enemies are just going to start standing up, but luckily enough, they're just going to be statues. Now, we'll grab that Lost Grace just right there, and we'll save that for later, as that's the path that we're going to need for the Divine Tower in order to activate the Godrick's rune. Now from that point, we'll head back to the Lost Graves next to the lift, head on down, and then we'll start heading out into that area where we had all those people fortified, pretty much aimed at the door, waiting for that crabman. Now, as soon as we come out, we'll head directly to the left. Along the left wall, there's going to be a little cellar area that we'll need to get down into. Key, appreciate it, man. We'll have another consumable right there on the left. We'll be able to open that stone sword key. Appreciate it, key. But on our left side, we'll have a seal that gives us, I believe, I can't remember what is it, Godslayer abilities or incantations. Can't remember which one, but we'll also have a prayer book inside of there as well for the Godskins. Very interesting group right there. If you don't know any of the lore on that, highly suggest looking into it. Pretty interesting read into, essentially. But we'll pretty much be back at the location we were before, but we'll need to double back to that area where there's a lot of those enemies at, and we'll need to head over to the left, up inside of the what to call this? Not sure. Upper area. Essentially, you'll want to funnel some of those enemies up top here, and there is another item that we'll need to pick up top here. Going to be some more fire arrows. Now, you can kind of slowly wait for them to kind of pile in through that staircase, but at the same time, you can start pushing out. After you've taken down about 3 or 4 of them, would be a good idea to just push down. It's going to pretty much take too much time to wait for all of them to come in, but if you're low health like I was, it could be the best bet for you in order to make sure that this is something that's more feasible area to push through instead of just being stuck, constantly overwhelmed by all these guys. Now the rest of these guys on these turrets are complete idiots. I mean, I'm pretty sure you've noticed this throughout many different areas. They're pretty oblivious to anybody as they're just holding on to that gun. Kind of shocked by that in a way. But out here in the middle, there's a couple items that we need to pick up, some consumables and golden runes. And over here on our left, we will not be heading down here all the way. We'll just need to grab that golden rune right there and start doubling back. Essentially, that's going to be the route going down to that main gate, but there's so many turrets and everything that's just surrounding it, and there's just nothing there that's worth it. It's not even worth your time going down that route just to get to the main gate. Over here on our right, we'll have another one of those wooden structures that'll have another type of shield up top. And then over here, we're going to have a dog and an ogre-like creature. Over here on our right, it's going to be another one of those finger things. You'll notice it's definitely early on in the gameplay footage for me, as it's just notifying me that that's going to give me the do list or summons for some other people, essentially. But over here on the left, next to that ogre-type enemy guy, we're going to have another one of those paintings. Then we'll be able to head back out, and we'll need to pretty much sneak past these guys. Don't want to aggro them just yet, especially if you're living that wretch life. Low level like I am, you just want to sneak past these guys just to get the Lost Grace up top just behind them. Over to our left, inside of this room, we're going to have our next Lost Grace. Now, from this location, you can lower this lift, but we're not going to take that one just yet. We can get through that door, but we're going to find the area in order to get through that door now. Just like that night before, this was a very frustrating one for me, and honestly, not 100% on how to break that statue in the middle. I tried getting this guy to aggro onto me and try to break that one. Not sure what enemy type you really need to use in order to open that one up. Generally, you'll find some bigger type of enemy that break that open, and I thought this guy would do it, but he did not end up working for me. Let me know down in the comments if you were able to break that statue, if you have any ideas on how to break that one. Would be a great benefit to everyone. But from that point over to our right, or to the left of that room, we'll have another one of those smithing stones, and then we'll be doubling back up these stairs, and there's going to be, I think, 2 of these flame bladed feet birds. Absolutely frustrating if you don't get the first hit on them and they start spitting some of that fire. It can be very devastating, can stun lock you like no other. Very irritating. Died to these guys more than a few times as I was coming through, as we'll have another one of those ogre giants around the corner that we'll need to deal with as well. So do be sure to kind of play this one cautiously. If you have low health, don't have too many of those health pots as well. You want to make sure that you kind of slow play this one, that way you have enough for the next area you go into, or at least to deal with that giant ogre if you're not that great at dodging some of his attacks. From this point, we'll have another gold rune on our right, and there's going to be a golden seed over on our right as well. You'll notice there's going to be the giant ogre back there. We'll grab up that golden seed, and then we'll kind of double back, as there's a room that we need to talk to one of these NPCs, and this is going to be one of them that helps you out with the Godrick fight. If you want to summon that in, can make it a whole lot easier than just dealing with it by yourself or with your own summons. She pretty much tanks and aggroes the whole thing. You'll see that coming up in the gameplay footage going forward. But over here on the right, another one of those smithing stones. And this is going to be the giant fight. Essentially, you can run by these guys. I just make sure that I kill everything at least once. After that, I'll just run straight by it. But if you don't feel like dealing with this, trust me, you can just run straight past him. Get to the next Lost Grace, take out the smaller enemies, and more than likely he's not going to be able to chase you all the way into that next area. And the lift connects to a room just behind, or the lift that was just inside of that room with the previous Lost Grace we were just in, connects to a room just behind that connects to that Lost Grace, or the next one that we'll be picking up. Now essentially with these giant ogres, it's fairly simple. You arguably want to be right underneath them anytime they're about to stomp. It's a very noticeable cue when he's about to stomp down on the ground. That way you can kind of jump back, then jump over to the left, get underneath him, keep getting some of those swings in. Not the hardest enemy type to deal with, but still does some massive damage with some of those attacks. But since he's very slow, it can make it a bit easier to deal with. Now, once we've finished him off, we'll need to head back up. Maybe you will have one of those smaller enemies left over. But just over to our right is going to be the Lost Grace room. Now, in my gameplay footage, I went directly over to the left. Didn't start pushing in because I wasn't sure if there was any enemies ahead of me, but doubled over to this right portion, grabbed up the blades, and then jumped back down, went into the next room because I saw the Lost Grace. This way we'll be able to pick up that Lost Grace and then push back to that next area, as there is going to be a ledge that we'll need to jump on inside of this area in order to get to a secret area. Now with this Lost Scarab, or Ash of War from this Scarab, there'll be more than a few pots back here, but there is 2 items that can be pretty beneficial to you later on. One of those bigger boy pots that's going to be doing the spin everywhere he goes. But you should be able to make quick work of this guy. Yes, we finally got the Bloodhound Fang back out. Can't remember when I made the transition. Didn't even notice. I've just been so used to it. But over on the left, we'll have a cracked pot, and then on the right, another one of those cracked pots. Now, on our right, this is the area where we'll be able to head down that lift and get to that Lost Grace. This is where that lift actually leads us to, but we're not going to take that down just yet. We're going to head back into the room, and on our left side, where we found those knives before, we'll need to jump onto the ledge at the very end and then jump over to the windows on our right. Now, don't jump down from there. We'll need to head over to the end of the room on our right. And then over to our right, we'll have another smithing stone. And then on our left, we'll have, I believe, 2 other items over here. Going to be another smithing stone and golden rune. Inside of here, we're going to have more than a few of those wooden mixtape guys. And another shield on our right. Should be able to take them down fairly easily. Definitely not something that's too hard to take down. But that's going to be the shield that we grabbed up inside of here. Could be beneficial for some of those shield bearers out there. Now just outside here, we're going to have another one of these smithing stones just right here. And then I believe we'll need to jump down over to the left onto this ledge. Walk across, get onto this, or these ledges going down. And over to our right. Now you will have to jump on the wall to grab this one, sadly enough. So do be careful with that one. But we'll have a golden rune right there. And then a bit of that, or rainbow stones. Pretty much one of those lacking secrets. But over here on the left, we'll need to open up that door. That way we have access to this location as easy as possible. As just down below where we're going to be jumping down to, we'll have one of those slither monsters. And it can be very frustrating. Especially if you had to go back through all of that just to get to this location. From this point, we'll jump down, or down below on this wooden ladder that's broken. There'll be 2 bats that we'll need to deal with down here, so be aware of that. And then we'll jump over to the right column. Just in front of us, we'll have another smithing stone right there. We'll start jumping down onto the wooden platforms down here. There's going to be more than a few rats down here, so be aware of that, and a bigger boy rat. As we progress a little bit more forward, those rats can be absolutely frustrating. They can get you into a stun lock pretty quickly. But on our right, we'll have another one of those crafting materials, and then another one of those spell abilities from the scarabs just around the corner. Now, as soon as we jump down right here, the slither monster is going to come up. Can be very frustrating. If I had to deal with this, or with the level I was at the very beginning, I'd highly suggest just, making this something that you would wait and come back a little bit later on to deal with, because that can be a very frustrating fight, especially if you have low health. But inside here, once you kill him, we will get that golden seed off of him. And in the next room, we'll have another talisman that we'll be able to pick up that further increases our vitality. Now you also notice this giant face here. I believe this is Godwin. I can't remember whether or not that's correct, but it's part of the lore. May see some DLC content with this later on. Don't know if there's any way to somehow activate this guy. You may have noticed this guy's face as well down in the deep root depths. There's some lore behind this. We'll definitely go and look at some of those other videos detailing that. But from that point, we'll head back to the Lost Grace just next to the boss room itself, and then we'll face off with Godrick. Now, over on our right, if you talked to that NPC previously, you'll be able to summon her in. And it's just going to make this boss fight a whole lot easier. Now, essentially, I didn't really understand what the summons were by this point when it came to one of those golden ones over to the right. I was just doing it to see what it was. It makes this fight a whole lot easier. If you're looking for a bit of a challenge, I'd highly suggest not using that summons, because it quite seriously can make it very easy. I mean, this is literally the first run with it, and you'll notice that that summons, or champion summons, is aggroing it to no end, and the only reason I died was because I fell over the edge. But do be aware of that. With this guy, though, if you have that summons with you, it just makes it quite literally a cakewalk. They aggro it the entire time. They deal some heavy damage to it. You're just able to keep walking up, avoid some of those whirlwind attacks. Godrick, as a boss fight, is not all that hard in the first place. Can be irritating to deal with some of those whirlwind attacks, but you can dodge them fairly easily. But if you're looking for the easiest way to get through this guy, that summons is going to be the best bet for you, as you'll just be able to deal as much damage as you want and keep the aggro off of you and any one of those attacks that he may be dealing. But as you'll notice, that summons just makes quick work of this guy. Way too easy, in my opinion. I feel like they should have nerfed the health on that summons, in my opinion. But then we'll get that remembrance and that great rune from him. But there's a couple of things that we need to do before we head over to that divine tower. We'll need to exit the Stormveil castle, as we've already gotten all the secrets from inside. We'll grab up that lost grace. There'll be a guy that we can talk to over here. If you kill that guy, you get a bell bearing from him. I don't know whether or not you can actually get him to be a vendor. Sometime later on, he just kind of talks about how he's free now whenever you talk to him just after the fight. But that bell bearing could give you some useful items if you just killed him. Don't know whether or not there's a side quest line with that guy, but he didn't seem to have one. Now, once we jump down here, though, there will be a side quest item that we'll be grabbing up just next to this ghost, which is going to be a supposed grape, but as you'll notice from the picture, it is definitely an eyeball, part of a twisted side quest that you'll need to feed that to a blind woman. If you just look up that item, more than likely find a wiki or information on where to find that lady, or if you possibly already come across her, that's going to be the item you need to feed to her. It's something to do with the frenzied flame, I believe. Pretty interesting one, but definitely was not something that I would include with this guide. I'll be making some of those side quest guides a little bit later on, doing some full videos on that. Felt it would have just distracted from the entire purpose of this guide. It just feels like it needs its own personal moment, at least, or personal video. But over here is going to be another side quest, which this guy is going to be necessary for the Ray of Lucaria. If you've already seen that guide from mine and you've already grabbed up that second glintstone academy key, you'll need to bring it back to this guy, and then he'll be able to gain access inside of there, and you'll be able to meet up with him again, apparently. That'll be also another side quest. May do a video on that one as well. I'll be doing a lot of them in the coming future on a lot of these different side quest lines and how some of them can be affected between each decision that you make. But from this point, we'll need to head back to that lost grace that's going to be heading towards the divine tower. And there's a couple of items that we'll need to pick up over here. We'll have the Pearl Drake Talisman, which is going to further increase our defenses against those lightning attacks. Now, there'll be a couple of those stone golems out here, but at the very end of this, we'll be able to activate that great rune from Godrick, which is quite beneficial, especially for a starting great rune. Could help a lot of people out there, but... And with this guy, apparently pillars don't matter. Like I said before, some of those mini-boss or bigger boys, they seem to be able to hit through anything, so do be aware that you just need to dodge that. But over here on the right, we'll have one item to grab up. Going to be another one of those consumables. And then we'll start further heading down. Now, after I've checked a few things out, there's going to be a portal right here. Don't go through it just yet. We'll need to jump down to the broken portion of this bridge just down here. We'll have another one of those crafting materials, and we'll actually get the scarab helmet. Just going to be something that's going to be useful for immunity or looks. If you're just looking for something that looks a little bit weird, you're trying to use that for PvP, just showing off how powerful your weapon is and how much armor you don't need. Could be one of those useful items to have. But from that portal, we'll teleport all the way across that broken bridge to directly in front of that divine tower. But there's a couple of items before we cross that you'll need to grab up before we head in. And I believe it's only, well, it's going to be two birds. Very irritating just to deal with. Their pecking is insatiable, but another pickled pig's feet, or not pig's feet, chicken's feet, and some feathers over at the other end. But from this point, we'll be able to double back, head up into that Divine Tower, and activate the Great Rune. After I've taken a good look around. Now with this Godrick's Great Rune, it's going to be perfect for any of those people that need to have a bonus 5 stats to any one of those base stats that they have. Especially for me as a wretch early on, I wish I had activated this sooner. As you'll notice from the gameplay footage, I never headed over here in the beginning. This would have been one of those great runes that helped me greatly in the wretch, or since I am playing the wretch. Sadly, I didn't do my research beforehand, one of those noob moments, but for any of you that may not have known this, possibly haven't grabbed this up, we'll also grab a Lost Grace at the top of this tower. This is one of those great runes that could greatly benefit you and just give you +5 to every single one of those stats. Amazing great rune to have. There's some that could benefit other playstyles better, but as somebody that may be possibly going back through the game, going through that wretch playthrough, could be a huge benefit for you. But that's going to be the Stormveil Castle guide right there. More than a few secrets in there that were not as obvious as some of those illusionary walls. You'd think some of those illusionary walls would be a bit harder to find than some of the other secrets in here, but there was more than a few of those ledges that were just kind of obscure, didn't realize you could jump on top of them. Can be a bit frustrating in some of these areas. But if you'd like to check out some of this content live, hit that link down in the description. Follow me over at Twitch. Had some recent internet issues, but finally called up the ISP, got some of those worked out. We've got a new line to the house. Hopefully everything should be good. Was having a huge issue with my upload. Was pretty much one of those moments where constantly I'm just getting 0 upload or just unable to pretty much stream. Would completely shut down my stream. Inconsistent, poor frame rate. I mean, it's something else. But finally, hopefully everything is up to par. We should be going through Elden Ring through the weekend. We'll be working on the Khalid area, or Khalid, whatever you'd like to call it. And we'll be making a guide on that coming up in the future, as well as starting that New Game Plus and working on those side quest guidelines, or guides, essentially. And if you'd like to see more content like this, obviously hit that subscription down below. We're going to have plenty more coming in the next couple of days and the coming weeks. But on that note, hopefully you enjoyed and have a good one.